Welcome to RenSmart Module B. We will be talking about the rental properties and landlord's rights and responsibilities. So, if you haven't been to RenSmart before, I just want to give you a quick little spiel that it's 5 classes, and when you're done taking the 5 classes, you will have a quick little assessment. As long as you come to class and you pay attention, you'll do great. And then you'll get a certificate that hopefully will increase your chances of being a Rent 2 in the future. All right. So checking out the rental property and the landlord. Okay, so the beginning of your packet, it looks a little bit different than what's on the screen, but has all of the same information. So we will be talking about the Fair Housing Act today, which is very important. And then I do want to go over some of the resources that are listed for you. So the first one is the Tenant Resource Center. And that is great for you if you have any questions regarding if you think the landlord is doing something that they shouldn't, or you're not sure how to go about something, go there, and I'm pretty sure that your questions will be answered. The second one is Legal Action of Wisconsin, and they are a free to low cost legal aid for civil matters, tenant landlord rights. Just call them up and they will tell you if they can help you or not, but that's good to know that they're out there. Then the Sexual Offender Registry Database. So when you are searching for an apartment or you found an apartment, you can go to that website, type in the address, and you will be able to see any offenders near you. And I'm going to warn you, they're everywhere. So don't think you're going to go in there getting blank screen. You're going to get a lot. So just for you to be aware of who's around, your neighbors. And then the last one I want to talk about is the Wisconsin Housing Search. So this is a great tool for looking for an apartment or rental property that accepts your ICS voucher. You can go in there, you can click the link or the little checkbox, and all of the rental units that are accepting ICS vouchers and have an available unit will pop up, and it's throughout the whole Wisconsin. So you just type in your city, or I think you could type in the county too, but it's great for you to use. So that's there for you. All right. So on page 1, there are some additional resources for you. The Housing Authority, State Division of Housing, and more information about Section 8 and privately owned and subsidized housing. We're not going to get into that, but those are there for you as well. All right. So I just want to go over the 4 different types of housing. So there's public housing, rental assistance, private market subsidized units, and nonprofit. So most likely you will or already have applied for ICS or a TBRA voucher, and that would be you would have rental assistance. Whereas public housing, there are 2 public housing properties in Green Bay, and every person that is living in those properties are paying 30% of their income as their rent. And I don't know the addresses of them, but I'm sure one of you in class has heard about them, and you feel free to share more. Then the nonprofit is Habitat for Humanity. So I'm sure most of you have heard about that. It's a great opportunity for families. However, I think they build like 3 or 4 a year. So if you think of all of the families that need housing versus how many they're building, just don't put all your eggs in a basket. But I'm not saying don't try. I just don't want you to get let down there. So if you have any more questions about that, ask your case manager and they can tell you a little bit more. All right, so we're gonna go to page 2 in your packet, and so I would like you to pick out the I would like you to pick out the most important things that you need for you and your family while you're looking for an apartment or a rental unit. So if you don't have a car or vehicle, being near a bus line is going to be very important. Versus somebody who does have a vehicle, that might not be the most important thing on their list. So you can pause this video, fill it out, and then I'd like you guys to share what is most important to you versus your neighbor, and then what are some things that, you know what, they're not important. And when you're done, press play. All right, so I hope you guys are able to discuss why you picked what's most important and prioritize. And the only reason that I have you do this activity is because it's really easy to grab the first apartment that you get accepted for, which I understand. However, I want to make sure that you prioritize and you focus on what is most important. So if you're saying no to an apartment because it doesn't have storage space versus it's safe and it's near a bus line, you know, this is going to help you stay focused. All right. So now we're going to talk about the Fair Housing Act. So what the Fair Housing Act is a federal law that protects tenants from being discriminated against by their landlord or property manager. So I'm going to read it to you and then we'll go a little bit further in. So the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in the sale, rental, and financing of dwellings and in other housing-related transactions based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, including children under the age of 18 living with parents or legal custodians, pregnant women, people securing custody of children under the age of 18, and anybody who has a disability. So what does this mean? This is protecting anybody under the law that will be treated differently because of these things. So that would include denying an apartment because of your race, or being treated differently because of your religion, or if you have a disability or something. Now, just because it's a law doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but those classes are protected federally. So if you go to page 3 in your handout, we can talk about what is covered under the Wisconsin law. So on the right-hand side, your age is protected under Wisconsin, your ancestry, marital status, lawful source of income, and if you are a survivor of domestic abuse, sexual assault, or stalking victims. So when you are searching for an apartment, or if you are an apartment, like I said before, you cannot be treated differently because of these reasons. So on page 4 of your packet, we're going to dive a little bit deeper. We started federally, which is all of the United States. We channeled down to Wisconsin. Now these are the local. So in Appleton, you cannot be discriminated against because of your gender identity or gender expression. In Appleton, De Pere, and Oshkosh. Now in the city of Green Bay, additional protected classes would be the receipt of rental assistance, gender identity, gender expression, gender nonconformity, transgender status, and past or present military service. So I want to talk about the first one, receipt of rental assistance, for a second, because I wish I could give you a clear answer, but it's unclear if you can be denied because you have rental assistance or treated differently. I've heard it both ways, and that's usually a common question, and I don't have an answer for you right now, but if I do, I will keep you updated. But if you do have rental assistance, they cannot treat you any differently than somebody who is paying rent without that assistance. Okay, moving on to, so the Fair Housing Act has an exemption. So this exemption is a landlord that is living in the same building as other tenants that is 4 units or less. So that would include a duplex or an apartment complex that has 4 units and the landlord is living there as well. And technically, under the law, he or she could discriminate because of race, or your family is too big, or they don't agree with your religion, and that is legal. I don't know why. I don't agree with it, but according to the law, they are allowed to discriminate against anybody. As far as service animals go, they should not affect you getting a place to live. Like I said before, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. They can deny you for other reasons and claim that it's not because of the service animal, but it does happen. But technically it should not. And then if there are any discrimination that you've encountered, you can go to the Fair Housing in Green Bay, and there's some handouts that I can provide you if you need, and you can file a claim if you've been discriminated against. The sooner you make a claim, the better, because discrimination is really hard to prove to begin with, let alone if it happened a year or 2 ago. So 30 days or less, and they can help you. So let's talk about service animals a little bit more. So a service animal includes an emotional support animal and a service animal, not a therapy animal. So a service animal or emotional support, you need proper documentation, usually through a doctor, and it's more of a challenge to get your animal qualified as a service animal versus a therapy animal. So the only way that your landlord can, I guess, deny you of having it is if you really aren't disabled and you don't need it, if you don't provide the proper documentation, if the animal is causing somebody severe health problems within the unit or the property, and if the animal is causing physical damage to the property or to another person. So, let's say that you have a service animal and you're moving in. The landlord cannot charge you for extra pet rent or have additional pet policies because it is not a pet. It is an emotional support animal. They're providing a service to you versus just a companion. So, if you want to read a little bit more, here you go. All right, so page 5 in your handout, red flags of housing discrimination. So page 5 and 6, I believe there are 17 different examples. So how discrimination. Sometimes you think of somebody just yelling belligerently names to somebody. That would be discrimination. However, it can look different. So, for example, you are calling an apartment complex and you have an accent and they are not returning your phone calls, versus a friend that is applying for the same place and they are getting calls back. That would be an example of discrimination. If they are trying to show you a different unit in a bad part of town because they are judging you based on how you look, of your race or your family makeup, and they want to put you in a different unit versus the one that you wanted to look at with the nice neighborhood and it's a new unit, that would be potentially discrimination as well. So I will have you read through these so you know, but I won't read them all to you. And then when you're done, you can press play. All right. Page 7 of your handout is Don't Rent Trouble. So what this essentially means is while you are touring places, check everything over before you agree to sign a lease. So you could bring a charger with you. I know it says hair dryer, but I think that's a little much to bring a hair dryer to a tour. So if you want to check the electrical outlets, you can put in your charger, see if your phone is charging. There you go. That gives you your answer. Plumbing. Turn on the water, flush the toilets, see how things are draining. The safety. Are the locks working? Are the windows secure? Speaking of windows, do they have cracks? Are there large drafts? You can also check for rodents and other pests. So, yes, you can look for cockroaches and bed bugs. Open up cabinets. Use your flashlight on your phone. Look for droppings, other signs of pests. And then, even if it's hot out, turn on the heat. If it's cold out, turn on the air conditioner. Make sure those things work, and so you know what you're getting yourself into. There are more examples of what you could check for during a tour on page 7 and 8, and I will have you read those over on your own time. And then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and we can have those questions answered. So, moving on to interviewing landlords and property managers. When you are looking for a place, it's really based around who are you and what are you going to offer to the landlord. However, it goes another way. So you are looking for a place to live. This is going to be your home. You have every right to know who's going to be the property manager. What is this person like? Who's the landlord? Are they nice? Can you trust them? Etc. So on page 9 and 10, there are a whole bunch of different questions that you can ask your landlord, but my biggest takeaway that I want you to walk away from is CCAP your landlord and your property manager first. Are they going to court often? That's a red flag. If they like to take people in for evictions often, I don't think that would be very good for you to rent from them. If it's a private unit, do they have any charges? And if they do, are you comfortable with that? Just CCAP them. Then on page 11, we have 10 questions you absolutely must ask before renting an apartment. So what are the rules to decorate? Can you hang pictures up on the wall? Can you paint? Can you put up wallpaper? Things like that. Ask before you do it so you don't have to owe them lots of money. Ask about rules. How does the parking work? And then what are the upfront costs when you sign the lease? So do you just need a security deposit? If so, how much? Do you need first and last month's rent? Figure that out. Ask them. And then at the bottom is best practices and tips for renters. The most important out of the 9, I would say, are number 1, 2, and 9. So when you are communicating with your landlord, make sure it is all documented in writing. I strongly suggest email just because text messages can be lost when you break a phone, lose a phone. Email, you can sign onto any computer, any phone, and those emails will be there. And then any receipts or any money that you are giving your landlord, make sure you get a receipt. So then if you do have to go to court, you will have all of the documentation. You don't have to worry about the he said, she said mess. You have your butt covered. And then number 9 is prioritizing paying rent over other expenses. So I know sometimes it's hard to think, well, I can't go without a phone, or, I really need my cigarettes. However, having a roof over your head comes first. Everything else will follow, just so you have somewhere safe to stay. And then lastly, on page 12 are the renting and bad rental history, or renting with bad rental history and renting with a bad credit history. So there's a little synapse of how to rent after having these situations. So if you have bad credit or you have evictions, take a peek at this. I'm not going to read over it. That's for you to read on your own. But there's some pretty good information on there as well. So, lastly, before we talk about the Wisconsin housing search one more time, I would like you to do this activity, which the volunteer will hand out to you. So you're going to pick one of the 3, a single parent, a homeless individual, and then the other one I can't remember off the top of my head, but read over those little paragraphs and figure out which one you can, that is most interesting to you or you can relate to. And then once you pick one, you will have a corresponding sheet that will be handed to you. And you have to figure out which rental unit that this person should go with. So it'll either be rental A, B, or C. And then once you find that, you found, okay, rental unit B would work best, then talk about it. You can work with a partner, you can work by yourself, whatever makes you feel comfortable. So you can pause the video and resume when you're done. All right. Lastly, I would like to talk about rental scams. So we are in the day and age of everything is virtual. You are looking for places online, you are communicating with people online, and that can be 100% safe. However, scams are a thing, and they will always be a thing, unfortunately. So, a few things to look for. If it is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. There should not be a 4-bedroom house for $600 for rent. That is not our market right now. And what you can do is, if it's on Facebook or Craigslist, Google up that address, and if it's on Zillow for sale, that is a scam. They are trying to sell that property. They are not trying to actually rent it. Somebody took those photos and they're trying to scam you. Another common scam is, ironically, the landlord is out of town and they are in town, but they're going to send keys through the mail. Just send them a deposit over Venmo, PayPal, what have you. That is a scam. You should be able to meet the person. They should not be sending keys through the mail. I think those are the top two that I've heard. But if you type in on your phone, BBB investigation rental scams, there's a whole plethora of more information that I think would be very beneficial to you. So, if you have any questions, like I said before, ask your case manager, write them down, and then we can help you sort through those. If not, you are free to go.